Hey guys, thanks for coming back. Join us here at Salty Ginger Talk. For those that are returning listeners, great to have you back. For those checking us out for the first time, we appreciate you checking us out and we're glad that you're here. So, our podcast is for people that want to learn something new or make themselves a little bit better every day. So, we talk a lot about controlling our emotions, making left brained, fact based, reasoned decisions, and worrying about the things we have control over in our lives. The rest of it, we got to let go. And that's a good prelude for the episode that we've got going today because we are talking about change. We're going to give you 8 tips for dealing with change, which is critical to building a good life for yourself because your life will change continuously. So it's the one thing in life. You've heard the old saying, death and taxes. You should probably add change to that saying, right? There's only two certain things in life, death and taxes. Change is certain as well. Things always change. We just went through a presidential election. We're replacing the president. So that is changing. All of the people that run the cabinet positions are changing. We elected new senators. We elected new Congress people. We elected new mayors and governors, and all those things are changing. We have 3 grown boys. They started off as 3 little babies, and that all changed over the last 30 plus years. My relationship with my wife is very different now than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Um, and that's just part of life. It's how it works. So change is coming. Um, and we just need to be ready for it. We need to be prepared for it and have coping mechanisms for managing change. Now, some people love change and it's easy for them and they really like new experiences and they can adapt very quickly, and that's fine. A lot of people don't, and that's fine too. But if you're in the second group and you don't like change a lot, but you know that it's inevitable, it makes sense to try to figure out ways to cope with change when it's headed your way because it's coming, like we talked about. There's no other way about it. So we can't control some things that change. People pass away. The people you care about will pass away at some point. You might pass away before they do. Those things just happen. Like the company you work for, you may love it, it goes out of business. There's all sorts of variables that you have zero control over. Maybe you love your new vacation home, but it gets hit by a hurricane or a flood and is damaged, and you can't use it anymore, and you have to rebuild it or whatever. Right? There's just tons and tons of things in life that you don't have control over. There are things you do have control over, and that's what we're going to talk through here because you do have control over how you react to those situations, how you think about those situations, how you process those situations. And so those are the tips that we're going to talk about today. And hopefully you're able to take these, incorporate them into your life. And as you manage change, you become better and better and better at it. That's the goal, right? We want to be a little bit better of a person tomorrow than we are today. And the next day, we want to be a little bit better than the day before. So that's the whole goal is small improvements consistently over long periods of time deliver outstanding results. It is rare to hit the grand slam. It is rare for catalytic change to strike like lightning. It just rarely happens that way. And so you need to be prepared to improve yourself a little bit. Just work on yourself a little bit every day. And 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road, you'll be shocked at how far you get. So, with all that said, let's talk through our 8 tips for change. Number one, you got to accept it. You've got to accept change. A strong person can adapt to change quickly. Try to understand and support the need for change. Maybe you really like your boss, but they're let go from the company or they leave the company for a better job. You've got a new boss and your whole world at work is different. Maybe someone you care about passes away. You don't have control over that, but you have control over how you react to it. There's all sorts of variables that you don't have control over, but how you react to it, you do have control over. So try to understand why it happens, right? Death is a part of life. Like everyone will die at some point. Every living being on the earth, every plant, every animal, they're all going to die at some point. There is no eternal life on the earth. That's part of how it works. When I look at professional sports a lot, and that's a world that I grew up in wanting to participate in, and so that world makes a lot of sense to me. But I went to a hockey clinic one time. It was coached by the guy that ran the AAA team for the Manchester Monarchs in Manchester, New Hampshire. And they put on a great clinic, and they had several former NHL players there. And one guy who was, an average NHL player, had a 15-year career, which, average NHL player, that's saying something. And he said, look, we all wind up in men's league. He said, we all wind up in the same spot. We just take different paths to get there. Mine took me through the NHL, but now I go to men's league every Sunday night and I skate and I drink beer in the locker room with the guys and tell jokes. And that's where we all wind up. That's how it goes. And so you've got to understand that change is inevitable. You've got to know that it's going to happen. And you've got to know that, okay, things are not going to be the way they used to be. I need to adapt to the new world that I'm living in, adapt to the new circumstances. And I want to make a good life for myself. So I need to handle those things as they come up. So first thing you got to do is accept it. Okay, so let's just say now we've accepted it. Now how do we do the things that we just talked about? The first tip after change is communicate. You've got to communicate with the people that are around you, whether it be work, whether it be family, whether it be personal relationships, whatever the case may be. Share your expectations and plans and make time and listen to other people who share their expectations and their plans with you. You have to communicate with people if you're going to get everyone to pull the rope in the same direction, or if you're going to build successful relationships with people. They've got to know what you want. You need to do it in a constructive, as non-emotional as possible. Even in emotional circumstances, taking a non-emotional approach is very, very important. Non-judgmental as well. Not good, not bad, not right, not wrong. Talk through things with people. Don't judge them, and don't judge yourself. But communicate openly about what your expectations are, what your plans are, how you see the new world, what your plans are to try to adapt to the new world. Be open about those things. That's number one, communicate. Next tip we've got is seek support. A support system can provide guidance and reassurance. You can seek support from friends, family, peers, or mentors. And it could be people that are going through the same thing that you are. If you're at work and your boss changes or the company undergoes a change, let's say it's bought or sold. There's other people going through what you're going through. Talk with them. What do you see? How do you think it's going to play out? What are you concerned about? What are your plans to make this as successful as possible? Make yourself as successful as possible. Maybe it's in a relationship. Let's say you've been dating for a while and you think, hey, maybe we want to take the next step. Or you just meet someone and you want to make it exclusive. Seek support on those things. Talk to people around you. I really like person X. What do you think about them? I'm thinking about making this more serious. There's people out there that can help you think through those things with conversations, but you've got to reach out to them. You've got to share your thoughts and ideas with them, going back to communication. And those people are willing to help. There's always people willing to help if you let them. But you've got to let your guard down a little bit. You've got to trust people. That's why you get to choose who you trust, who's in your inner circle, who's close to you. And they can help you through it if you let them. So communicate with that group that's around you where you seek support as well. Terribly important. Next tip is set goals. So stay motivated and focus on what is now rather than what has changed. Don't lament, hey, I really liked the way things were. Sure you did, but they're not that way anymore. There is no way back machine. We can't go way back to when things were the way that they were. So we have to deal with the current situation right now. And what are you going to do about that? What goals do you have? What new opportunities have presented themselves through the change that you're undergoing? Let's say that you are a parent and your children grow up and go to college. Like, that is a big milestone in our lives when our kids leave the nest, right? They go out of the house, they make their way in the world. And some of that we look back and go, I remember when they were 5 years old and they used to fall asleep on my chest, or I'd read them stories at night, all those great memories you have from when they were kids. That's all true. But now that your kids are older, you have freedom. You get to do all sorts of things you couldn't do before. Maybe you like to golf. Maybe you like to crochet. Maybe you like to hike. Maybe you wanted to join a book club. Maybe you wanted to take classes in college. All of those things become available to you because you're not a primary caregiver for a child anymore. So even though some things may seem sad, there are new opportunities that present themselves in front of you. Set goals for yourself when you go through change so that you can manage through that change, and it gives you something that you have control over, that you can focus on, that you can really get after. So setting goals is terribly important. And by the way, we're doing an episode this week on how to set goals. So we'll help you with that one too. Next, focus on the short term. Pick tasks that you can do well and focus on those. If it just seems like it's overwhelming, this change is massive and I'm not sure how it's going to be, you can do what you're doing now. Like, you can focus on what you have responsibility for every day. If it's at work, you have an output that you're responsible for every day. If you're a tradesperson, maybe it's building a house. Maybe it's repairing a furnace. Maybe it's lane roofing, whatever the case may be. If you're an accountant, there are files you're supposed to go through, returns you're supposed to file, books you're supposed to close, fiscal periods you're supposed to close. You have control over those things. Focus on those things. Just go, hey, I got this right here. I'm going to block all the rest of this out. I'm not going to worry about the things that I don't have control over because I have control over this here right now. And so that's a great way to go. When you're struggling with big, think small. When you're struggling with small, it's the opposite, by the way. We did an episode on this called Think the Opposite to get yourself out of a rut. So when all the little things are dragging you down, the Wi-Fi is running slow and I miss that traffic light and I'm late for work and I've got to get that noise on my car checked and all these little things are nagging at you, then you think big. Look at the great life that I've got. Look at the great family I got. Look at the great relationship that I'm in. Look at whatever you value in your life and think big picture when it's the small things that are dragging you down. But on change usually overwhelms people and it's a bigger issue. So focus on the short term right in front of you, and that'll make you feel much more in control. It'll make you feel much less anxious. It'll make you feel much better about the situation that you're in. Next, take time to reflect. Reflect on your thoughts and feelings. Keep a journal or a diary to document your thoughts and feelings. What is it about this change that's upsetting to you? Or what is it about this change that makes you nervous, that makes you anxious, that makes you scared, that makes you happy? It doesn't really matter what the emotions are. You feel different emotions when change happens, and it's up to you to manage through those emotions and how you react to those emotions. And if you take time to reflect, just think, why am I thinking this? Why do I feel this way? Why am I taking this approach? What is it doing to me or for me when I do this? Do I like the result? Do I not like the result? If you don't like the result, take different actions. If you do like the result, keep taking the actions you're taking. But if you reflect on those things, it'll help you get some clarity. It'll help you build a roadmap. It'll help you plan. It'll help you set goals. It'll help you manage through the situation much more effectively. So take time to reflect for sure. Tying right into that conversation, the next one is create a plan. Have a plan in place for how you would deal with change. If your company's being sold and there's let's say your company's being merged and you are in accounting and you know they don't need two accounting firms. There's one at the company that you're at and there's one at the company that's either buying or being bought by your company. How's that going to work? What's the plan? Maybe you need to get your resume together. Maybe you need to sit down and have a conversation with your boss to understand what your future is in the new organization. Maybe you need to update certifications. Maybe you need to reach out to people that are coming into the company and understand their backgrounds so you understand what tools and resources are available to the company and how you fit in to that bigger picture. But you can make a plan. And remember, we did an episode also called Fail to Plan, Plan to Fail. And your plan will never go the way that you lay it out. It just never works that way. We've yet to make a plan where there weren't variables that changed from what we thought they were going to be. But we were in a much better position to deal with those variables because we had a plan in place. So by creating a plan, it gives you a framework by which you can approach the imminent change, and that will make you feel better going into it, knowing that you'll probably have to audible at the line of scrimmage when you get there. But if you have a plan, it makes it a lot easier to call that audible and still run a successful play. And then the last thing we had is acknowledge what's working. So there can be good things that come from change, even change that creates negative things or things that you perceive you don't like in your life. Like we talked about your kids growing up and going to college or moving out of the house and getting a job, whatever their path is, that creates freedom for you. So there's an upside to what the perceived downside of your kids leaving. Look, it never bothered me. I had 3 sons, and I looked at it like it was my job to get them ready for the world, and then the world would take them and give them their lumps when they were adults, and that's exactly what happened. And we have 3 really successful, well-adjusted, good guys out in the world. They treat women well. They have good jobs. They work hard. They're respectful. They have goals. They have ambitions. Doesn't matter what they are. They're theirs. And that's the most important thing is they chose them and they're getting after them. So you got to acknowledge what's working and recognize the good things that any change brings because it's never all negative, right? So it's raining outside. Oh, that sucks. But it makes the grass green. It makes the trees grow. It makes the flowers bloom. All of those things happen when it rains. So even though rain in of itself can be kind of a downer when it happens, it provides a ton of benefits to our world and our society. And so even something like that, the weather changes. There's pros and cons to hot weather. There's pros and cons to cold weather. There's pros and cons to clear weather. There's pros and cons to rainy weather. You get the point. So you've got to acknowledge what's working. It's not all bad. You've got to look for the good. You've got to focus on the things you can control. And you've got to adjust your mindset and your reaction to the situations that you find yourself in. So those are 8 tips today, guys. Hope those are useful. Again, change is inevitable. We all go through it. Doesn't matter who you are. The world is going to change, and you need to be prepared to change with it. In fact, that's Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, is actually not only the strong shall survive, it's the species that adapt the best to change that survive. And you want to be a part of the species or the people that adapt the best to change and survive. So hopefully you can take these 8 tips, put them to use, and they will help you manage through change more effectively in the future. So don't forget, guys, James puts it up over here every day. SaltyGingerTalk.com is our website. We do a newsletter every weekday that you can subscribe to. We have all of our podcast episodes on our website, and we have links to all of our social media accounts on our website as well. So also don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on our podcast on whatever platform you consume it on. Really appreciate you guys coming out and checking out the channel. Hope you guys found this useful. Want everyone to have a great week, and we will see you next time.